Alright, this is the third video. Sorry I couldn't fit it all in two. I tried, but there's just too much to cover. Alright, so now we're going to look at adding and subtracting rational numbers, which would be decimals or fractions. Okay, so we'll look at this first one here. Determine if each expression is equivalent to negative 2.7 plus negative 4.9. Choose yes or no for each expression. Okay, so a few things. First thing, on this first one, we've got negative 2.7 minus 4.9. Well, adding a negative, remember, is the same as subtracting a positive. So we're subtracting positive 4.9. So this would be yes. You don't even have to do any math for that. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and show you what this would be combined. Okay? Again, both are negatives, so they can combine to make a bigger negative when you add them together. And when you add these together, you put 2.7, 4.9, 7 plus 9 is 16. Okay, 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7. So you get negative 7.6. Okay, so I'll clear this up, and I'll just write this at the top, negative 7.6 is our total. Okay. This next one, we got negative 2.7. Okay, so now we got to look at if these parentheses combine to make a negative 4.9. So we got negative 0.4 in there minus 4.5. Okay. Again, we got a negative 0.4. We're going 4.5 more negative, so we get a total of negative 4.9 there, which would be the same thing as the original equation. So both A and B are yes so far. Okay. So next one, we've got plus positive 0.4 minus 4.5. Well, if this one plus negative 0.4 minus 4.5 is true, then this one definitely can't be true. Okay, you don't have to do any math. You can just see that that's not going to be true because there's a difference. This is plus negative 0.4. This is plus positive 0.4. So obviously that's going to be no. Okay. Next one, we got to combine. Again, all of them start with negative 2.7. So we're really just looking at this last part. Okay, you got to combine negative 0.7 with negative 4.2. Okay, both are negative. We're combining them, so it's going to be more negative. It's going to be 0.7 more negative than 4.2, which gets you to negative 4.9. Okay, and that's what we want. So this is also yes. Okay, and then the last one, we've got a plus 4.2 at the end. Okay, we got a big negative 4.9. It's not going to be the same as plus 4.2, so that last one is wrong. Okay. All right, this next one here. Mike watches a caterpillar climbing a tree trunk. He writes the expression negative 5/8 minus negative 1/8 minus 1/2. Alright, let's write this again. We got negative 5/8 minus negative 1/8 minus 1/2. Let's clean that up. Gosh dang it. Okay. So, in this one, we're subtracting this whole thing. Okay. So what you want to do here is you can distribute the negative to everything. That's one way. Okay. Or you can do parentheses first and then subtract the whole thing. I'm going to distribute the negative. Okay. So we got negative 5/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/2. Okay. It's saying the negative of this whole thing. Okay, you can distribute the negative to everything inside of it, and that's the same thing. Remember, a negative times a negative gets you a positive. Again, a negative times a negative 1/2 gets you a positive 1/2. Okay? Alright, so now we can just add everything together. Okay? We've got negative 5/8 plus 1/8. That'll get us to negative 4/8, right? And then we got plus 1/2. Okay? Alright, in this situation, 4/8 is the same as 1/2. Now, we can't just add these straight across because we don't have common denominators, right? So, we've got to change this to negative 1/2 plus 1/2. Alright? And what is negative 1/2 plus 1/2? Well, that's 0. Okay? Okay, another way to look at this is, so you know the answer is going to be 0, okay? Another way we can do it, instead of distributing the negative, we can take negative 5/8 minus negative 1/8 minus 1/2. We can get all this in terms of eighths in here, okay? So we got negative 5/8 minus negative 1/8 minus, and 1/2 is the same as 4/8, okay? Again, you got to get common denominators. So now we can take negative 5/8 minus, and we got negative 1/8 minus 4/8. That gives us a total of negative 5/8. Now we got negative 5/8 minus negative 5/8. And subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So we got negative 5/8 plus 5/8. Still get 0, okay? So now we got to look at these options and see which ones get us what we want, okay? This first one, they distributed the negative, exactly what we did at first, okay? So they changed it from minus, negative, negative, okay? This is now, they distributed the negative, it's plus 1/8, and then it's plus 1/2. So that would be true. B, negative 5/8 plus 5/8. Well, we got that right here. Okay, so B is also correct. C, they got negative 5/8 minus 1/8 plus 1/2. So the issue here is they distributed this negative to the 1/2 and made it plus 1/2, but they didn't distribute the negative to the 1/8. Okay, so this should be actually plus 1/8. See the difference between A and C? That should be plus 1/8 there. Okay, letter D. Okay, the only difference they did in letter D is they took this minus 1/2 at the end and they made it plus negative 1/2. Okay, is there any difference in that? Subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. Okay, so all these rules you've been learning, they're starting to creep up into these next lessons, and that's going to happen through the whole year. These are tough questions here, okay, and you really got to know what you're talking about. All right, so right now we have A, B, and D as correct answers. All right, in this one, they distributed the negative to the 1/8 and made it plus 1/8, because a negative times a negative is a positive 1/8, but then they didn't distribute the negative to the 1/2. They left it as negative 1/2. All right, and then in letter F, we got negative 5/8 minus 1/8 minus 1/2. Okay, they just took the negative out for some reason right here. This minus, you can't just say forget it. We're not going to use that anymore. Okay, so that is also incorrect. And it asks, what is the overall change in the height? Well, we already found that. It's 0. Okay. All right. Let's look at number 3, and then I'll go through everything, kind of wrap everything up. Okay. So number 3, the value of a stock increased 1 1/4 points on Monday morning. On Monday afternoon, the value of the stock decreased by 1 2/3. On Tuesday morning, the value increased by 1 1/2. What was the overall change? So we're starting at 0. We'll just assume we're starting at 0. Okay. Then it increased by 1 1/4. So now we're sitting at positive 1 1/4. On Monday, it decreased by 1 2/3. So we're going to take this 1 1/4, and we're going to take away 1 2/3. Okay. I would change these to improper fractions first. 1 1/4 is the same as 5/4. 1 2/3 is the same as 5/3. Okay. We don't have common denominators, so we cannot subtract straight across. the lowest common denominator is 12 that we can get. We have to take 4 times 3 and 3 times 4. So we got to take this 5 times 3 up here and this 5 times 4. Okay? We now get 15 twelfths here, and we're taking away 20 twelfths. 15 minus 20 gets us to negative 5 twelfths. So that's where we're sitting on Monday afternoon. Then it says on Tuesday morning the value increased again by 1 1/2. Alright, so we're going to change 1 1/2 to an improper fraction. And remember, it's going up, so we'll go ahead and put plus, increased. Okay, 1 1/2 is the same as 3 halves. We need it in terms of twelfths. So we got to take 2 times what to get to twelfths? We got to take 2 times 6, which means we got to take 3 times 6. So this would be 18 twelfths. So we got negative 5 twelfths plus 18 twelfths. And now we've got negative 5 plus 18. And we can do this because the denominators are both 12. Well, what do we have more of, negatives or positives? We have more of the positives. We have 13 twelfths. Okay? That's positive 13 twelfths. 13 twelfths is the same as 1 whole, and then how much do we have left over? We got 1/12 left over. So that would be letter C. Okay? Alright. I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap everything up. Everything we've covered this year so far. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go through multiplication and division rules. One more time. So, we got some situations. We can have a positive times a positive. We can have a negative times a negative number. We can have a positive times a negative. And we can have a negative times a positive. Okay? Same thing with division. We can have a positive divided by a positive. We can have a negative divided by a negative. We can have a positive divided by a negative. And a negative divided by a positive. Okay? I'm going to pause the video and write these in real quick so that I can save some time. Alright? I'll be back in a second. Well, it didn't pause. Never mind. Okay, so a positive times a positive gets you positive, negative times a negative gets you positive. And then it's alternating signs, you get negatives. Same with division. Okay, anytime you have alternating signs, it's going to get you negative. Anytime you have the same sign, it's going to get you a positive. Alright, now I'm going to pause the video and set up another situation. Okay, so here we're adding integers, okay, and this is going to be the team positive versus team negative. So you got to look at what you have more of, negative or positive. Who's going to win this? Well, team negative's got more. How many more? 3 in both these situations. In these two situations, team positive's got 3 more than team negative, so the answer is going to be positive 3. So here in these situations, any number minus a negative number is going to be the same as that same number plus a positive. Any number plus a negative is going to be the same as that number minus the positive. So right here we got the difference between rational and irrational. Remember, a rational number can be written as a fraction, any perfect square, square roots, terminating decimals, fractions, repeating decimals. Irrational has to be non-terminating and non-repeating. Examples, pi, a square root of a non-perfect square, and any decimal that goes on forever and doesn't repeat. Here's an example of prime factorization of 100. We broke it down into 25 and 4, broke 25 to 5 and 5, and 2 and 4 to 2 and 2. Okay, it's written as 5 times 5 times 2 times 2, or 5 squared times 2 squared. Here we got multiplying and dividing fractions. Remember, multiplying, you can reduce diagonally or up and down, get 3/4 here. Dividing, you have to KFC, keep, flip, change, keep the first, flip the second, change the sign.